Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to those who have been listening, who are new here in audio form to the podcast, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. For me, it's Pocket Cast. No endorsement. It's just, that's what I like to use. Big shout out to you. Also, big shout out to everybody on YouTube watching this right now. Whether you got here through this weekly show, special content, right? Like bonus episodes, That Time in Hip Hop, or even the shorts I like to post. There'll be more on that soon. But right here on Hip Hop Now Podcast, we have reached 20,000 subscribers. 20K subs right here on YouTube. Not only due to some tactics that don't include bots, just things that will get you a job in today's world in 2025, which I have, but also just because people like content on this channel and they subscribe. So what are you waiting for? Also know if you really like the content and you want to help out the production of this podcast, whether that's a new microphone, a new camera, wink, wink, software, or even advertisement for this show, all of the proceeds, whether you become a member, super chat, whatever it may be, go back into the production of the show. Because why else would I ask you for any money? Okay? So if you would like to become a YouTube member, your opportunity is right here on the channel, on Hip Hop Now Pod on YouTube. And also, when you're watching videos, check out the merch. Now I got the merch on the channel so you can see. It's not just t-shirts. It's not just hoodies. There's stickers. I think there's like pillows, hats, shorts. I might pick up a pair of shorts. I'm not going to lie. iPhone cases, all kinds of things. So appreciate you for doing what you do. Last announcement before we get into the show. I was off last week, if you didn't tell, but there was plenty of content. But one thing that I did do last week is put out a new post or article, if you will, on my Substack. My Substack link is in the description of this episode, whether you listen in audio form or video. And I did a classic albums that I would call classic from 2020 to 2025. Some of them you can guess. Most of them are on the thumbnail. But if you like to read, and this is a very, very quick read, right? It's like intro, reveal album from 2020, blurb, next album, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in that, the link to read that is in the the description of this episode. Now, big shout out to hiphopdx.com, Double XL Mag, allhiphop.com, and a couple of places where I'm getting some of my stories from. Let's get right into the business though. So you've seen it, because I have, that Jay-Z reportedly, from a number of hip hop sites, is working on an album, which is something that if you watch my preview of maybe the last 2 or 3 years, I've said Jay-Z gonna drop an album. Of course, I was wrong the other two, but this year I feel like I'm gonna be right because the time feels right. But this is on hiphopdx.com, and so y'all know this is them. Jay-Z is reportedly set to drop music that will shake the world. Let's get it. Jay-Z is reportedly getting set to drop music that is going to shake people. The claims come from an unusual source in Cash Cobain, who was speaking at Billboard Unfiltered Live. He said, and I quote, I heard Jay-Z about to drop some ish that's going to shake the world. That's what I heard. That's going to shake the world. Okay. Now, as a source, I don't even know who this man is. Okay. But that's besides the point. That doesn't mean he doesn't know. Because I've been speculating and I don't really know. Shake the World is kind of interesting, but let's just go with dropping the album first. Jay-Z definitely should drop an album if he's still active because he has been, uh, circling in some ways, right? You see him with different underground cats. You see him involved with the clip situation. There's enough happening from a old school rapper standpoint for Jay-Z to feel like it's time to come outside. Let's not forget Nas dropped 6 projects in like 2.5 years. Mostly, and when I say mostly, I mean like probably 5 out of the 6 critically acclaimed to some point, right? Everybody likes something. For me, Magic 2 was kind of a letdown, but when I went back, I'm like, it's just different. So I think he got 6 joints that were great. Then you had the year of LL dropping with Q-Tip on the boards and who else? Common and Pete Rock, and then you had other artists. Obviously Snoop keeps dropping, but then Busta, and then you fast forward to this year and you got the Clips are back and Raekwon dropped and Ghost dropped and we got Mobb Deep and De La and Big L to come. Slick Rick dropped, right? You even had Grand Puba drop, but trust me, don't go looking for it if you don't want to be disappointed. But you also had Kwame come back to the rap game and drop. There's just I could keep going on and on. Old school, before his time, during his time, after his time, dropping records. But I think the Clips momentum is really crazy. And then we have a Nas and Premier album that's supposed to drop this year. And we know how like Jay-Z like to drop music around the time Nas does. I know he sees it as the Titans are dropping music, but some people look at it like, hey, you trying to take attention away from Nas? The battle happened years ago, y'all. Relax. But the thing that's interesting to me more than anything is the shake the world part. Now, there's 2 things, and one I'm more excited for than the other. One, shake the world. Sometimes it might be what happened with like Missionary. I know a lot of MCs, not MCs, a lot of fans didn't necessarily like Snoop and Dr. Dre. That was another comeback, but Snoop and Dr. Dre's Missionary, because it just didn't. They thought they were going to get Doggy Style, but upgraded. I thought it was a great album, but I could see how some features made them feel like, nah, this ain't it. And I feel like I think I said this in my review. Those collaborations, which weren't all bad, like with Jelly Roll, I kind of like that joint. It was just them making a statement that they've elevated since then. They're not going to go back and rehash what they did. They're kind of flexing where they are in their careers somewhat by the features. And I feel like Jay-Z could do that because he's kind of done that, where it's more about, I'm going to do this record with this rock guy and this country person. Like, I'm going to get big names on my album to make it seem like this big, bombastic, album. But that doesn't always equal great music. It just doesn't. Some collaborations don't mix, others feel forced. Sometimes you get magic depending on what it is. But it's not something that hip hop heads will get excited for, and that's who's running things right now. It's about lyrics and bars. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later, where that's kind of back, right? Because another motivation for Jay-Z was probably that battle between Kendrick and Drake, where it really came down to some lyricism and being clever. Which leads me to the other thing I think we could get from Jay-Z that I really want. Someone said this. I think it was I think it might have been like Alchemist and yeah, I think it was Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs said that Jay-Z had been listening to Alfredo too and was digging it. And I think Alchemist says Jay-Z's really tapped into the underground. Now, Alchemist works with a number of dudes from Griselda Cats to Boldy James to obviously Freddie Gibbs. I feel like that's the Jay-Z I want to hear from. Because when's the last time you heard a Jay-Z album that reminded you of when he was picking beats for Reasonable Doubt or even The Blueprint, or American Gangster, right? Where it felt like it's hip hop. It's not like, yo, let's just show off how rich we are and how many rich friends we have. So I feel like Jay-Z's kind of due for one of those, even though 444 with No ID kind of gave you some of that vibe, but I know some people didn't like that, and it was a concept album also. If you didn't know, it's basically apologizing to his wife, right? But I just wonder what is going to be. And when you say shake people and shake the world, I think that has a lot more to do with what he may choose to say, right? Because there's the Diddy situation. They kept trying to push Jay-Z right into that situation. There's the lawyer that was going at him, trying to get money out of him, right? There's the state of hip hop at this point. What does Jay have to say about hip hop? There's the current president. Will he have some bars for him? So I think what's great about this is Jay-Z will have a lot to say because there's nothing worse than, a guy taking this long to come out and just talk about the same things he's always talked about. I don't mind Jay-Z talking about how rich he is because that's where he started. That's where he's always been. That's a part of his brand to flaunt his wealth. But if we can get 50% boom bap, and I mean really boom bap, I'll be with that. So, what do you think? Are you anticipating the new Jay-Z album? You have any idea what you want from Jay-Z? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Next, everybody talk about Stove God Cooks, and I love it. I love it. The Clips putting Stove God on their latest album, Let God Sort Them Out, on the track FICO. That's who Stove God is, for those who didn't know. He's the one doing the hook, right? Fetty So Strong, you got to bag it with one eye closed. Inside Out, everybody loving Stove God. But Stove God been around for a minute, at least in his current form, as 2020 with his debut album produced by Rock Marciano. I was going to say Brake Lights. That's not the name of it. Reasonable Drought is the name of it, right? And ever since then, we've been looking for since 2020, we've been looking for a new Stove God. And all we've gotten is he got signed to Griselda. He's done a ton of hooks. He's done a verse here and there. He released a project, Stop Calling Me, I'm Cooking, that was quickly taken down, but also still sent to people. So a lot of us have it. He does this hook on Clip's album. Everybody's talking about Stove God, endorsing him. On Jadakiss and Fat Joe's podcast, they play part of a song that was on that EP he dropped. I guess that was a year or two ago, called Marvin Gaye, and the internet's like, yo, this song is crazy. When the album coming? But the problem with that, and we hope it gets solved. We hope Jay-Z works the magic he did with the Clips and known to have done with others, do the same thing with Stove God in some way, because he can't really drop an album, and that's why he hasn't dropped an album, and that's why that project that everybody's kind of discovering now was pulled down and it never saw the Apple Musics and the Spotify's. It was never on there, right? It was Hand to Hand, which was appropriate for Stove God, but it was so crazy that it was like, yo, everybody need to hear this. And now that everybody got a snippet of it, and all these endorsements from Rhapsody and all of that are just coming out the woodworks. We need an album from the man. Like we need one. And I'm pretty sure he probably sitting on some heat, so thirsty to drop it, but can't. Now, from what I understand, there was I guess he was signed to Rock Marcy or something like that, and they had a situation and split. And there was another project that was leaked um, not too long after Reasonable Drought that I think was leaked purposely. But every time Stove God has tried to come out in some ways, and I think West Side Gunners did an excellent job of when he puts him on his album. It's just like, a verse here, a hook there. It's never a full on song, or the hook is so long it might as well be a verse. But I'm hoping we get an album, because this is the worst thing that could happen for not only him, who has momentum right now, but also just hip hop in general. That we in 2025 we still getting dope music shelved or blocked because of business. And most of the time it's not even just because of business, it's usually personal. And they're using the business to do things to one another. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. I Stove God said this, and he said this, that you can expect an album from him in 2025. If that happens, 2025 could potentially be a stellar year, considering all of the great music that started to drop. And it just keeps on going, especially if you get Jay and his dope, and Nas and the Mobb Deep turns out to be good. Like, if you get all these albums being good, um, Jid's album was crazy. Like, shout out to Lupe Fiasco. He did like a Samurai DX. I guess it's supposed to be a deluxe, but it was like a reworking of a lot of songs from his album from last year, Samurai, and it's fantastic. Like, I love it. I don't know if I like it more than the original. I might, but it's great. But again, this is a lot of dope music, and if we finally get a Stove God album, I'm not gonna know what to do with myself. I'm really not. So, tell me what you think about Stove God. You like him? You don't? Anticipating the album? Do you have that album that was released, or that it was an EP that was released not that long ago? Leave your comments in the comment section below. I do check comments. Lastly, so there's certain things with this podcast that I almost refuse to do, just because, not only because everybody's checking it out or doing these things themselves, and I'm trying to, separate myself from other hip hop um, creators or whatever, content creators. But every now and again, I may jump in the fray and talk about, what's going on. But there was one thing I was kind of ignoring until I couldn't really ignore it that much, and that was Young Thug, right? Because I didn't really care about the snitching, not snitching, blah blah blah. This is hip hop music and culture. The jail time and street stuff don't really have anything to do with it. So I thought. So these tapes are out of him giving his opinion on Kendrick, and why Kendrick won't be better than Drake, and really like looking at hip hop as a monetization tool, and saying what Kendrick is doing by not collaborating is messing up the hip hop game and not good for hip hop. And then he kind of goes on to say, like, start referencing the streets in regards to hip hop. And it was almost as if, and it wasn't just him, but it was almost as if the streets equaled hip hop. And of course, I got a call at this time, which is terrible. But I kept thinking to myself, that's crazy. Because on the one hand, some people may say to themselves, hip hop comes from the streets. But that's not what they mean. They're talking about streets, like criminals, right? Illegal activity. And taking that and trying to, mesh it with the culture of hip hop. Like, if you're not doing this thing in hip hop, that generates money, and you're focused on art and bars, you're not feeding the streets. And I kept thinking, well, maybe streets is just a metaphor for the culture, right? Maybe that's all he's saying, and I'm misunderstanding. But then I kept seeing a bunch of people who were saying the same thing. And maybe that's what he meant, but what I saw from others, it sounded like, nah, this is about the streets and the music. And with that, it made me think about when the Locks used to say, like, they don't play y'all in jail. And I kept thinking to myself, so? Like, like in hip hop, I would like to think most artists are trying to impress hip hop fans. Hip hop fans are everywhere. In jail, out of jail, working at McDonald's, working at Wells Fargo, whatever. Hip hop fans are everybody. Hip hop fans are street dudes, nerds, athletes, influencers. Like hip hop fans could be anybody. So this notion that it has to be for the streets, or you have to be street, or you can't, or you're not really doing hip hop, is so stupid. Like I don't understand it. And it would take a person in Young Thug who clearly is not really about being dope on the mic to try to define what hip hop is. And I know he would love to say that's what it is today. Though that's the record business. That's not even genre specific. The record business is to make money at the end of the day, whether you making a little bit of money or a ton of money. Some of you dudes in the rap game have decided that it's more important to make money than it is to make art. And I'm not trying to defend him, but he's an example, right? Kendrick is an example of both. I can make the money with the art. That's the blueprint. The street's going to take it or leave it. But this is what's weird about the statement also. We saw the Pop Out concert. The stage looked like the streets. And if you like, nah, no, it didn't. Well, you not from the hood. You can't be. Because you usually don't see that on stage unless you're in a smaller club and somebody brought everybody from the projects to be on stage with them. So it just seemed weird to hear him say that and to hear people kind of co-sign that and refer to hip hop as the streets, but also the streets they're referring to is not really about beats and bars and artistry and making dope albums. It was like the definition was changing for whatever he wanted it to be, right? I need to make this money, man. Let me get that feature. You being selfish with your shine. Oh, you trying to do hip hop. You messing up the game. Messing up the game because he's trying to do hip hop versus trying to essentially exploit hip hop in a way that the industry has done for years and then turn around. Like it was just weird. In a lot of ways, I don't like to talk about not that part, but oh, well, he was snitching and blah blah blah, and the leak phone, like the rumor mill. Only if it involves hip hop music and culture will I feel the need to discuss it, unless I find it extremely funny, because that's what happens sometimes. So I thought it was crazy for Young Thug to kind of try to make this statement about the music, about hip hop music, about hip hop culture, and really act as if it was really about the streets and not necessarily the essence of what it is he does and others do. So, what do you think? Do you like the idea that people are blurring the line between criminal activities in the streets and music that's hip hop, and feeling like the streets is what it is now and not that boom bap stuff? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Please become a member of this channel, not only to get perks, because there are perks that come along with this channel, but also just to stay locked in to the content I have right around the corner waiting for you, including more reviews. Like when that Jay-Z album dropped, you already know what it is. And things of that nature, which is a phrase I hate to say because I hate hearing it half the time, but then I just said it. Follow me on social media at Vegas World INC, and please know that this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts in audio form, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or right here on YouTube in video form. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic, I'm a fan. Peace.